Hello, and welcome to the Step Stories podcast. I'm your host, Robin Bruener, and today I'm welcoming a guest who is a leader in the step family sphere, Cameron Norman. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I know you are very busy and flying all over the place. And where are you now? You're in Maine, is that
I
correct?
am in Maine. Yes, I lived in DC for 25 years, and we were splitting time for a few years between DC and Maine, and we just decided last year to go ahead and make the move. So we're up in the cold country.
A cold country is right. Well, Cameron, you are the CEO of Stepfamily Solutions, and you're also the host of the Stepmom Diaries podcast. And this is a place where you provide stepmoms with tools and advice to help them embrace their blended family lives. Both the Stepmom Diaries podcast and Stepfamily Solutions are all centered around that. You are a leading step family expert and founder of the Step Family Coach Academy, which I can't wait to hear about. I know you certify step family coaches through research based, expert endorsed programs. And one of the people that I know endorses you and is on your board is somebody I interviewed yesterday who I just love, Dr. Patricia Papernow.
Oh
She's
yes, she is
fantastic.
one of my favorites. She's kind of become a mentor to me. I adore her.
I do too. I sure wish I would have met her earlier in my life. She's
I know, right?
amazing.
Yeah, she has a really
Yeah.
lovely way of explaining all of the complicated dynamics in plain English.
Yeah, she does. And she's very approachable. And one of the things we talked about is how few people are trained out there to help step families. So I really appreciate what you're doing with this coaching program and helping people to get out there to help other people. And as you said, having the ripple effect.
Mhm.
Um, But also, I just want to go into your background a little bit so we know who you are a little bit more. Before you had this role and created Step Family Solutions, you built a successful 23-year career in politics and worked on Capitol Hill as a top policy executive. And you worked as a top policy executive for two movie studios. I know you've served on nonprofit boards and were named one of the Washington Business Journal's Women Who Mean Business. And based on
Yes.
everything I have seen, you definitely mean business. So congratulations. That's
Oh,
exciting.
thank
Um,
you.
this is off topic, but it's interesting. I'm curious what you did on Capitol Hill and what you did for the movie studios.
Yeah, so I am a lawyer by training and decided while I was in law school that I wanted to go to Capitol Hill and work in politics and not go the route of the big law firm life, which a lot of my friends did do. And I think that people thought I was crazy. So I worked as a lawyer on Capitol Hill for about 5 years and then went to lobby for first Warner Brothers, Time Warner, and which is, of course, now in the news a lot with their latest
Yes.
ownership fight. And then I ran the federal government affairs for Sony Pictures, which was really fun and an exciting opportunity to open up their first office in DC. So, yeah, it was really interesting. I worked on intellectual property issues mostly, thinking, issues like film piracy and tax and trade and things like that. And, as a young lawyer, it was a really exciting opportunity to be able to, when I was on the Hill, to write legislation that got enacted into law and then, when I was off the Hill and working for the studios, to influence policy around the creative industries, which was really
Yeah.
exciting for me at the time. So
I'll
yeah,
bet it was.
it was a great run. It really was. I loved it.
I have a niece, very smart, who was working in the White House a couple of years ago and now is on Capitol Hill as well, and she's getting ready to go to law school, and I think she's weighing which way to go also, whether to go into policy or the big law firm, and it's exciting stuff. It's
It
exciting to be
is.
part of that world.
It is.
Um,
Yeah, I loved it. And
yeah.
it really it was was a hard decision to get out of it, but I had started coaching step families on the side. And in the meantime, politics had started getting like increasingly toxic. And of course, today I feel like it's just at an all-time toxic high.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm making a real difference for people's lives, or I was making a difference, and supporting the creative industries, but I was working for a big company. It's just sort of
Mm.
different. It doesn't, it's not quite the the immediate, you can see the difference you're making,
Hands on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and everything was getting so more and more toxic, and I was like, this feels like kind of an easy decision here. And people thought I was crazy to walk away from a successful career, but it just felt like time,
yeah,
and
but
it's the best thing I did.
well, and you clearly have the chops to create another successful career, which you have done. And that was my next question was how did you get into the step family business, I suppose? I know you're a stepmom. I'd love to
Mhm.
hear about your family and how that all happened.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a stepmom of 4. I did not meet my husband until I was 40, and we got married when I was 41, and he came with 4 kids. And I had grown up as a stepdaughter
Mm,
and kind of figured that not necessarily that I knew what to do, but maybe that I knew what not to do because my stepmother and
mm.
I have a little bit of a dicey relationship. Um, and so I think like a lot of stepmoms, I got into it thinking like, okay, well, I grew up as a stepdaughter, so I kind of know what that's like. And I've always been good with kids. They seem to like me. This is going to be great. And, I think as stepmoms that are listening will be nodding their heads when I say that it did not quite go according to plan. and I got into it and realized not only was it harder than I thought it was going to be, I mean, I just felt like such a failure. And I was looking online for resources and not finding nothing. And I'm like, okay, I'm this corporate executive. I'm reasonably intelligent. Like, show me the book. Like, give me the book to read, and I'll do it, and I can succeed at this. And I couldn't find anything, and so
Yeah.
what I did find at the time was a certification program, and I thought, you know what, I don't ever want to coach anybody, but like this will help me
Hmm.
understand what I'm dealing with, and so I signed up for it and realized that if I had been having a hard time with these dynamics, then surely I'm not the only one. And I decided to start coaching, and so I kind of built it on the side, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Here we are. I
Here
have
we
so
are.
many questions. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because and I'm listening to you, having grown up also as a stepdaughter, I always thought if I ever was a stepmom, I would be so good at it because I would know not what not to do and all that.
I
And
know,
I and
right?
I I am not a stepmother, but I really thought, oh yeah, I would be great because, I would do things, differently. But
Yeah.
it sounds like that's just not always the case. How old were the kids when you got married? The 4 kids.
So they were 8 to 14,
8 to 14.
so a
Okay, tough
range,
age.
yeah.
And, is their mother alive? Was it a divorce situation, or
It
had
was
she
a
passed away?
divorce. Yeah, it was
Okay.
a divorce. We all lived in the same town, and it was a high conflict situation, between, my husband and his ex. It's a high conflict dynamic, and, my youngest son has special needs, and so we were dealing with that dynamic as well, and then, there's been some ups and downs. We have a complicated relationship with 2 of the kids, currently, and, I mean, I think that if I did not have the training that I have, I would have a really hard time dealing with that.
Mm.
But I think because I understand the dynamics a little bit better than I did at first, it still makes me sad. I wish that the dynamics were a little bit different, but I also understand why things have sort of played out the way that they have.
How old are the kids now? How long has it been?
They are 17 to 24.
Okay.
So,
So you've been, a stepmother for 9 years, if I did
yeah.
my math right? Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
good
those
job
are
because we have our 9th anniversary coming up next month,
mm.
and I keep getting it wrong. This time last year when we were about to have our 8th anniversary, I was like, "Isn't this great? In a year we'll hit 10." And my husband was like, "We have not been married 9 years. It's only been 8."
Feels like it, right?
I know.
Well, those are, as I discussed yesterday with Dr. Papernow, like that those are really tough ages for the kids to make the transitions and for you to be dealing with them. And,
Mhm.
and I think I'm guessing you know that as a stepdaughter, which I know as well. And what was your circumstance as a child? Did your parents get divorced?
Yes. Yeah, my parents got divorced. They had a very, very high conflict dynamic,
Mm,
and Um, yeah, it was not easy on anybody, and I saw as I started learning more about the, you know, way that step family structure kinda plays into that, it really turned on a lot of light bulbs for me, not just around the dynamic that I have now, but also what I grew up in. It was
hmm.
very, very enlightening.
Definitely. And that's one of the things I kind of want to seg into because I think one of the things that motivates us who've grown up in a step family to get into this world is because we want to help people do things differently and because we wished we had those resources. I know I really wish that my stepmothers and my father could have had coaching. I
Mhm.
could have had coaching as a stepchild, and yeah, there's just not been a lot out there. So anyway, let's talk about Stepfamily Solutions because you've got a large enterprise going on there, and I know it's an umbrella over a lot of different things. So, can you talk about all the different things you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have my hands in a lot of different stuff. Obviously, you mentioned I've got the podcast, and that's been going for a few years now. And I bring on, experts, other coaches. I, I I try and mix it up a little bit with, content that is interesting from a substantive perspective, and then occasionally I'll bring on somebody that's super random that's just interesting. So,
Yeah.
so I've got that. I do one-on-one coaching, a little less than I used to, but I still do it. I have got a membership for step family members, mostly stepmoms, but we actually have got a bio mom in there now, which has been
Hmm.
really lovely. And we
Is she
meet.
sorry, is she in
Yeah.
there to learn how to deal with another her husband's or ex's wife? Or why is she in there?
No, she's in there to understand the perspective as it kind of applies to her husband, who's the stepdad of her kids.
Oh, okay. Right, right, right.
So,
So you're
it's a great addition.
yeah. Most of these things that you're doing kind of focus more on step moms, right?
Yes,
Mm,
that is mostly who finds me are the
mhm,
stepmoms, and then I do
yeah,
work with couples, and now I've got a bio mom that I'm working with
m'kay.
who's great, and, so I've got that, and then I train step family coaches, and that's a program that, I really love. I really get excited about it. And I love all the things I do. I love all my little babies, but this one, is really special because, the program I got certified through, no longer exists, and there wasn't anything for a while, and so I started kinda pulling together a curriculum and reached out to Patricia, reached out to some of the other experts that I work with to have them, review what I was doing, and it's really important to me. There is so little training, and it sounds like you and Patricia talked about this as well.
Mhm,
There are a lot of really well-meaning therapists and helpers that, are working with step families and that aren't trained in step family dynamics. And that can result in step families getting some really bad guidance
mm,
and guidance that can do real damage. And I've seen it play out in my family. I've seen it play out in a lot of the families of the people that I work with. And my clients, I mean, they'll come to me and say, I've been in therapy and the therapist is telling me to do this. And I'm like, oh no, you know.
mhm.
And so it's, being able to offer that training for coaches, and actually it's, a lot of therapists are now getting into coaching. And so I do have some therapists that have come through my program as well. But being able to kind of get that out there in the world. And, I've had people say, well, are you worried because you're a coach and you're creating your competition? I'm like, no, the
Yeah.
more the merrier. There
Yeah.
is somebody for everybody. And
Mm.
our area of step families, it is so underserved. And, 40% of American families have some sort of step family relationship in them.
Right.
Where are the coaches? They're not there. They're not there, and so, and I have in the middle of all this gone back to school and getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And
Mm.
so hope to bring that perspective in as well when I finish with that next year.
That's great. I also on the side am working on a grief coaching certificate. Not, I don't necessarily want to be a coach, but I think it's good to have it and to have it to help people because a lot of times people who come on my podcast are also dealing with past grief or current
Mhm.
grief. And I think it's really good to understand how to help people in that sense. And I'm curious, how did you go about creating an academy? Did you just basically take your education, take your coaching background and combine what you've learned from the different experts in the area? How did you create this?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, the curriculum that I developed, I had been teaching a couple of courses for stepmoms. And so I had already developed kind of a skeletal outline of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I didn't go as deep into it, right? But um, I pulled it together, and I really kind of I looked at it from a couple of lenses. One, back from when I was a new coach, and what are the things that I want to be armed with to feel confident in taking a session with somebody and being able to help them with their step family. Like, what do I feel like I need to know?
Hmm.
And, I actually use Patricia's book, Surviving and Thriving in Step Families, as our textbook. And
It's right
so,
behind me.
yeah,
It's a great book.
I kind of keep it on hand at all times. Mine's pretty
Yeah.
dog-eared at this point. But it's a fabulous book, and it's written for clinicians, but it's written in a way that step families can absolutely, it's accessible, for them. So I use that with my coaches, and we
Hmm.
read different parts, and certainly Patricia has it all, broken down into her 5 challenges of step family life. And so we, use that as the basis. And then, I talk about the substance, and then I also provide some, in session coaching strategies for things that they can do with their clients when they come in with particular challenges.
Mm. That's so they can come back to you if something's come in as a challenge and you can maybe help guide them after they've done the program.
Yes, I do. We have a coaching community that they have access to, and it's nice because the coaches get to know each other. And so we do have this little community. We do retreats, and they can come in to the chat and ask, like, hey, I've got this client, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? Or we do calls every month. We do some continuing education. I bring in these experts to talk to the coaches and answer their questions about,
Mm.
research that's happening right now, and kind of making sure that they can kind of stay up on the latest and greatest that's out there.
Mm.
So it's important to me that the coaches can continue their development, and most of them really want to. I mean, they're hungry for knowledge the same way that I was and you were. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really wonderful.
I'm curious, um, what's your perception of how many people that come to be step family coaches are coming from being a step parent or coming from having been a stepchild or both? Do you have any sense of that?
I will say that as of right now in this recording, 100% of the people that have come through are step parents
Step. Okay.
themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and certainly not a requirement. I think, if somebody is a stepchild or works with step families, you're going to get just as much out of it because they're important dynamics to understand about your clients, right? But that just tends to be the people that have been attracted so far.
Mm. Mhm. So no stepfathers though, really?
No, I have
Except
not had any stepdads
yeah,
come through yet. And I will tell you, as underserved as the step family and stepmom market is, the stepdad
yeah.
market is even more underserved.
I that makes
Um,
sense to me. You don't see much for stepfathers.
Now, I mean,
And
research also tells us that stepmoms have a higher incidence of depression
mm,
than biological moms or stepdads. And, societally, if you think about it, like stepdads get lauded as like, oh, look at him. He stepped up and he's taking care of those
mhm,
kids that aren't his. And isn't he wonderful? And
mm.
stepmom gets, look at her showing up at parent teacher conferences. Who does she think she is? Who's she trying to
Oh,
replace mom? So I mean, societally, it's a very different attitude, right? That comes into it all. But there are not, I know that there are stepdads out there that are struggling, and I've worked
yeah,
with some of them. But
yeah.
there's not the resources are not out there as much for stepdads as they are for stepmoms.
I think it's fabulous that you have a bio mom in there who wants to help her husband, the
Yeah,
stepfather. That's
it's
really
great.
amazing. Yeah. And that's such an interesting thing that you bring up about the PTA meeting or whatever. I have a friend who, not a friend, well, she's a friend, but she was also on my podcast and she's a stepmother. And that's one of the things she talked about. Her kids are big football players and there's like a mom's night. And she's really the one that has raised the kids and was there for everything. But yet on mom's night, she wasn't the mom and
Hmm.
she really struggled with that. And I'm sure there's
Yeah.
so many incidents like that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's sort of, Patricia talks about the idea of step parents being stuck outsiders, and that stuck outsider position and the things that come up around that, it's really insidious because
Yeah.
even when you have a great relationship with your stepchild, it comes up over and over again, and you have to sort of push it away and remember that relationship and remember that these thoughts are coming around because of the dynamic, not because,
Mm.
your stepchild doesn't like you or whatever it is. I mean, I just got back from going to Texas for a dad's weekend for my stepdaughter's sorority. And my stepdaughter and I are really close. We have a
Mm.
great relationship. I felt weird being there. But of course, there's dad's weekend and there's mom's weekend. There's no stepmom's weekend.
Right.
So, it is this sort of weird dynamic. And I was actually talking to my stepdaughter about it. And I was talking to her about the concept of the stuck outsider and stuck insider and,
Mhm.
what it is that I teach my people. And, I was saying to her, I said, look, one of the reasons that I'm always asking and making sure you're okay with things is because I want to be sure I'm not overstepping. This is dad's weekend. So I want to make sure you're getting time with your dad. And I love that you want to include me, but I want to be sure that you guys are getting to do your thing. And it, and it is something that can feel weird. And just so you know, when I feel weird, I remind myself that, that it's okay to feel weird and it's okay to then say, you know, I have a great relationship with my stepdaughter. She wants me here, and it's okay
I
for me to be here?
I respect that so much because all I was thinking about as I'm listening to you say that is, again, I'm relating it to being a stepdaughter, but I had a stepmother who I don't know if she was jealous or what it was, but, I had 2 of them, and they did not like me to be alone with my father, like, it
Mm,
felt threatening, and I think the fact that you let your stepdaughter know that you support that and appreciate
mhm.
that and respect that. For anybody listening, I keep hitting my microphone, sorry, who anybody listening, it's so important that you let as a step parent, you let the kids have time with their
Yes.
parents. It's
It's so
really
important,
important.
and, we talk a lot about, like, bonding with the kids and getting one-on-one time as a step parent with your stepkids is important, but it is equally, if not more important, that they get that one-on-one time with their parent. And I come to that also with the perspective of a stepkid who was constantly wanting more alone time with
Mhm.
my parent. And I think that is something that can be really hard for kids, and it can just add to the resentment
Yes.
and the feelings that they already have about the situation. And so, yeah, I mean, you should always be encouraging them to spend one-on-one time with their parent.
Yep.
Period. End of story. But it's
Yes.
important for you to get that one-on-one time and for y'all to have family time, right? Like it's sort of
Mhm.
a combination of all of that.
Yes. The other thing that comes to mind that I haven't talked about at all, but it's, oh my gosh, just you're bringing back a flood of memories of things, and that is the old Mother's Day problem. 'Cause,
Oh, yes.
I had 2 stepmothers, and I could never pick a card because there was never a good card for a stepmother, and, it
Hallmark, are
just
you listening?
it just went on and on, and because I didn't, I didn't really love them. I didn't have this lovey-dovey thing I wanted to give them, but I wanted to
Mhm.
still respect them, and it was painful for a year. They've passed away now, but it was so painful. I don't know. And I wondered, you don't have a card for a stepdaughter. You probably just get cards for a daughter, or how do you deal with all that? Is that an issue?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just like another weird thing about step family life, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
um, I think I have started to see a few more cards in the aisle around holidays,
Mhm.
Mother's Day included. But I will say that it is not in every store and it is not in always. And it's like, I still, when I see one, I'm like, oh, look at that. And I get excited because you just don't see them that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's weird. And for my stepdaughter, I'll get her, we kind of make a joke out of it. Like, I'll get her a dear daughter card and I'll like do a little thing and insert step.
Yeah.
and and she just gets me Mother's Day cards.
Yeah. That's nice.
And it's, I don't
That's a
know.
message.
Mother's Day is really weird. And I think for stepmoms, I think you just have to remember that it's hard for the kids too,
It
and they may have traditions that they've been doing with mom for a long time and you feel left out in the cold. You just need to find a different day then or figure out
mm,
something. We were always pretty lucky when the kids were going back and forth, when they were younger in school. Somehow I feel like on most years we ended up with them like Mother's Day morning and then they would go to their mom's house at like lunch or something like that. And so we would do like they would make me pancakes and like we would do something like that in the morning. But then they got to celebrate with mom. And so it was sort of like everybody got a little bit, but I tend to I try. It does That's another one of those stuck outsider things and you always feel a little bit left out even when you're not. But I do try and remember that, this is again another piece of the structural, challenges that come with step family life that
mm,
the kids feel weird too. Your
yeah.
spouse doesn't always know the best way to support you. It can just be weird. So, like, if it feels better to celebrate on a different day, there is Stepmother's Day, which is the week after Mother's Day, because of course it's
Oh,
after, right? But,
yeah.
you know,
Of course.
um, but, that's an option too. We haven't really done that, but um, yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing, but it's okay to acknowledge it being weird, and it's okay
Mm,
to acknowledge with the kids, like, "Hey, this may feel weird for you. I don't wanna make you feel weird. How would you like to handle it?"
yeah.
And maybe that's something that your partner raises with the kids that as a step parent, maybe you don't raise it, maybe your partner does,
Mhm.
but it's okay to talk to the kids about it and not force them into doing something that they feel awkward about too.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what are some of the most important things you've learned as a stepmother? If you had your top 3.
Oh my gosh, that list would be so long because I feel like
Yeah.
I'm still learning so much about it. I think the number one thing that I always tell new stepmoms is lighten up on yourself. Like, don't hold yourself to such a high and hard and strict standard. And when I was a new stepmom, I felt like everything had to be perfect. And I think some of it is we're trying to like earn our place in the family and prove that we deserve to be there and to be considered a parent.
Mhm.
And you don't have to do that. I mean, I remember the first couple birthday parties I threw, like I put so much effort into it. And my husband was like, you're not putting this on Pinterest. It does not have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, but it does. Like, my stepdaughter for her 12th birthday, we always ended up doing the slumber party birthdays at our house somehow, and she wanted an under the sea theme. So I went all out. I had like netting over the table and I like cut cheese into little triangles and called them shark's teeth and had I mean, I made all these like extravagant little snacks and they're 12 years old, 12-year-olds, and like what she remembers about it is that they ran around, got crazy and like had fun. And I was agonizing over like, well, we need to
Every
do a
detail.
backdrop so they can take pictures and, have the, room where they're sleeping all set up and like, no, you don't have to like lighten up on yourself and don't be so hard on yourself because nobody expects perfection.
Only you
um,
only you expect it of yourself, right?
yeah, only you. And I guess the other thing is really to try to remember where people are coming from because I think step family life regardless of whether you're coming in as a stepmom, biological parent, a stepchild, it comes with a lot of really loaded emotions. And before reacting really strongly to something that somebody else has done or said, maybe being able to take a beat, put yourself in their shoes, and think
Mm,
about like where they might be coming from. And this is, I think, particularly important in the high conflict situations where you've got a high conflict ex who maybe is doing things that are, not super that impact your household. Um, they may not always be coming from a crazy place. They may be coming from a place of insecurity.
Mhm.
She may be concerned that you're going to replace her. And of course, you
Mhm.
think that's absolutely absurd, but her actions may be reactions to a story that she's telling herself.
Mhm.
And so if you can step out of your stuff for a minute and think about how the dynamic is playing out for her. How is it playing out for your partner? In the same way that we're stuck outsiders, your partner's a stuck insider, and they may feel really torn between you and the kids. What's it like for the kids thinking about it from their perspective? You know what I mean? Like, I think if you can do
yes,
that, that's an enormous gift that you can give your family.
absolutely. 100%. I think being able to get outside yourself and look at different perspectives, no matter what family you're in, is a good idea. It's
Yes,
a gift.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But looking back, is there anything you might have done differently as a stepmother?
Oh boy, there are a million things.
I
There
knew
are a
that was a
million
loaded
things.
question.
I think, I think one of them I kind of alluded to of like really feeling like I had to justify my place and feeling like I had to show up at everything. I had to be at every game, every practice, every parent teacher thing. And the fact is you don't. It is okay if you're not. And maybe it might even be less pressure on everybody if you don't show up at everything if it's a high conflict situation. And I think the other thing is, and this is something Patricia talks a lot about, um, when I became a stepmom, I really was excited about the parenting part of it. I was excited about, having kids. I knew that the probability was that I would not have kids of my own at that age. And I was excited to have, kids in the house. And I was excited to be a parenting partner. And my husband was very excited to have a parenting partner and to have someone who, saw things similarly to the way that he did. And so I remember, we moved into the house. It was right before summer. So we kind of had the summer. And then um, he and I talked about, well, we should probably have some house rules and kind of structure to some of the chores before the new school year. And so we kind of came up with a list of stuff. And I said, well, we should, maybe we can do this over dinner and have like a family meeting. And he said, well, I really want you to be an equal partner in this. So, maybe you should be the one to present the rules to the kids.
Uh-oh.
Yes, yes, that face right there, that is the that's the correct face for that suggestion. And for those listening, it was a grimace. But, I was so eager to be an equal parent. I was like, "Sounds
Mhm.
great, let's do it." So, we sat down and I was like, "Okay, so here's what we're gonna do," and and I got to the part about like, "Well, and so we're gonna keep all of our bedroom doors open." And the teens were like, no, that's not happening." And, yeah, I mean, all of it went down like a lead balloon because guess what?
Yeah.
Step parents should not be handing down rules, handing down discipline. I mean, rules is okay, but not in terms of it feeling like a disciplinary action. That is
But that
just going to go badly unless you are fully bonded with the kids. And
yeah.
it's something I didn't know, and research backs it up. It's something I didn't know, and I really wish that we had done that differently, you know?
Well, I think that was also, interesting, I guess, for somebody coming in with 4 kids with no parenting experience. That must have been really challenging and eye-opening.
Yeah, it was, and I felt like we, needed some order, and, I think it's a position that a lot of stepmoms find themselves in where they they wanna have some order to the chaos, and so they kinda jump into that parenting role, and the kids are like, "The hell you say? You're not my mom," you
Yeah.
know? And
That was
and it
me.
yeah, and it but it shouldn't be happening like that. It needs to
Yeah.
always be the parent that enforces consequences, that lays out rules, and the step parent really should just be focusing on developing that relationship.
Mhm.
And it's something that a lot of stepmoms and stepdads, but can get put into really awkward positions where that's concerned, and it's a really, really common, misstep.
I had, I'm sure you must know Dr. Todd Jensen. I'm
Oh, yes,
guessing
I
you know
just
him?
spoke with him this afternoon.
Oh, you're kidding me. Well, I had him on as well, and one of the big things he said was, connection, not correction, and I think just
Exactly.
remembering that little tagline is
Mhm.
great.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, and it's
yeah.
important, it's really important, and it's hard, and I know that a lot of step parents feel like, "Well, gosh, how can that be possible? Because if I don't do it, nobody will do it." And I say, "Well, what would happen if nobody did it?"
Mm,
Let's play that out because it's much better if you can focus on, establishing that relationship with little Johnny or Susie, you know?
mhm. Yes, it's great advice. And well, we are kind of coming to the end, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's just been fantastic. You have so much to offer. And I'm just curious before we go, is there anything else you want to share that might be helpful to the listeners?
Um, I think I'm gonna go back to my initial advice, which is don't be so hard on yourself. If you're a stepmom or a stepdad who is really struggling, you know, you're gonna make mistakes and it's gonna be okay. And, really don't we beat ourselves up a lot as women, right?
Yeah.
And I think stepmoms are really pretty bad about it. So, lighten up on yourself a little bit is really the biggest thing that I want women to hear.
I like that because I think a lot of women, besides just stepmoms, need to hear that advice, right?
I
We're all pretty hard on
agree.
ourselves.
We would
And
never talk to our friends the way that we talk to ourselves.
I agree. I agree. So, anything else? What do you have going on that you're excited about coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I am launching in my next cohort of the Step Family Coach Academy, and that's coming up in April. And working on a couple of other little projects with a couple of different academics, papers, and books, and so forth. And I'm real excited about all of that. I've got a couple of speaking opportunities coming up, and so I think there are lots of good things coming for step families.
Good. You are kind of a Instead of a super mom, you're a super stepmom. you, you're handling so much and you're contributing so much to these families. So thank you. And we're going to share all of your Stepfamily Solutions, your podcast, everything in our show notes. So please go there to hear more, because there's a world of information that Cameron's putting out. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed getting to know you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Take care.